Okay, here we go. So my name is Sarah Chauncey, and I am the author of P.S. I Love You More Than Tuna, which is the first illustrated gift book for adults grieving the loss of a cat. It will be published this fall. It's available for pre-order now, so please pre-order it. And yes, it will ship in October. I'm on Vancouver Island in British Columbia. Illustrator Francis Tremblay is in Montreal with his wife Diana. I'm not sure if they're going to show up for this or not. I wanted to give a little backstory about the book because it came about in a way that I find really interesting. And it starts, don't worry, I'm going to summarize, but it starts in 2005 when I left Toronto and moved to Vancouver for a writing job. And my creative director was a woman named Diana, who's also like an amazing writer, and we became really good writerly friends. And every so often, you know, I'd go to dinner at her house, and I met her husband, Francis Tremblay, who was a very sweet man, excellent cook, and a brilliant artist. I was just, from the first time I saw his drawings, I thought, there's something in here. It's like he reaches in and captures like the 8-year-old in all of us. And it comes through his art. And I just really loved that. So that I just kind of put in the back of my head. So over the course of 15 years, Diana and I are friends. I continued to work for her in different capacities. You know, I talk to Francis occasionally, but not really. 2016, in December, my cat Hedda died. And Francis and Diana lent me the money so that I could have her euthanized at home, and also so that I could bring back her ashes. And that was a really powerful, you know, at the time, I just thought it was Diana. Francis wasn't even like really on my radar because I had been talking to Diana about this. And then 3 days after Hedda died, I got an email from Francis with this. It's a sketch of Hedda and a note. And as you can see, the note ends, P.S. I love you more than tuna. I bawled. And in the middle of those tears, I thought, that would be a great book title. So that's how it came about. I had a complete kind of vision for how it would work. It was very clear to me Francis had to be the illustrator. And also his gift made me feel seen and witnessed, which is so important in grief, and especially with animals, we often don't get that. And I think that went a long way towards healing for me. Okay, so about this session. I'm going to talk for 20-30 minutes. I already have for about 6. And then I'll open it up for any questions you might have or discussion, and we can all turn on our video and kind of wave to each other. One of my goals with Tuna is to help people mindfully appreciate the time we do have with our cats. Cats and dogs and most other companion animals live shorter lifespans than humans, and we can't do anything about that. They live there. As a vet tech, the cat vet LVT, Ellen Carroza, says, you know, cats live their lifespan, not ours. And that's one of the hardest things about living with a cat or a dog, is knowing that that heartbreak is coming. With Hedda, I was just in complete denial. I wouldn't let anyone talk about her age. I had all kinds of like magical thinking around it. I mean, she did live to 20, but I had, you know, I just did not. I was petrified of telling anyone her age because I didn't want them going, oh yeah, because I was like, no, she's got to stay. With Ariel, I adopted her with the knowledge that I don't know how much time I'm going to have with her. I hope I have several decades. I might not. I don't know how long I have with me on this planet. And so I really want to make the most of every moment. So our culture is very big on YOLO, you know, on bucket lists, on experiencing the breadth of life. And, you know, how many countries can I go to? How many wild and crazy experiences can I have? And that's one way to approach living life to the fullest. It's one interpretation. There is another one, which is the dimension of depth, going very deep right where we are. Instead of going all over the place, taking that energy and focusing it right where we are. If you think of a flashlight, when you open the beam really wide, you can see a little bit, you can't really see details, but you see a little bit of a lot of things. If you narrow the flashlight into a really tight beam, all that light is concentrated and you can see incredible detail of a very narrow slice of the path. So that's what we're doing. We're doing the flashlight. With COVID, we're not traveling much. A lot of travel isn't possible. Many of us are staying home voluntarily more than we usually would. And so it's a perfect opportunity to go into that deep, deep way with our cats or our dogs or whoever lives with us. These are not exercises I can coach you through in real time. I'm sorry about that. Ideally, I would be able to give you an exercise, let you have some time to practice it at home, come back, tell me what came up for you, how it affected your bond with your cat. In the absence of being able to do that, I do have a blog post that outlines most of the things I'll be talking about. And I hope that you'll use that, for reference as practice. And absolutely, tag me, tell me how it goes. Okay, so I'm going to start with a grounding and breathing exercise because there's so much going on in the world and there's so much going on in meowfest and there's so much going on in each of our lives that we just need to kind of and I need this too. So we're going to take an inhale for 5 count, hold for 5, and release for 7, and I will talk you through it. So I invite you to close your eyes. Take a deep inhale. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Hold. 2, 3, 4, 5. Exhale. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Keeping your eyes closed, I invite you to imagine a rope of light that is going down into the earth from your tailbone. And it's a rope that's going down through any floors below you, through the earth's crust, through whatever matter is in the middle part, and then getting to the fiery hot center. Take the rope of light and wrap it around the center and then tie a knot in it to make sure that you're really, really anchored there. And when you're sure that the knot is tight there, follow the rope of light back up to your tailbone and make sure that it's anchored there and knotted. You can tie it, give it a good tug. And that connects us straight to the earth. We'll open our eyes now on a count of 3 and I'll talk you through. It's 3, 2, 1, open. Okay, I feel much more here now. So for conventional advice, when we think about bonds with humans, we bond in several ways. One of them is understanding what other people need. These are, when I'm talking about this, it's platonic relationships, our family, friends, people, our coworkers, understanding what they need and how that influences how they show up in the world. Shared experiences are a big one, and that's often the only one we think about with humans, shared experiences. And taking the other's perspective, understanding how they see the world and what that means for this relationship. So these exercises are about doing the same thing with your cat. And you can do almost all of these with any companion animal. Jackson Galaxy talks about the raw cat, and what he means by that is your cat as they exist, cats as they exist in the absence of human intervention. Because cats are naturally wild creatures. They domesticated themselves because they discovered humans could feed them. But for the most part, cats are designed to live in the wild. And in the absence of humans, cats would still be here. So that's what we're kind of getting at, is in the absence of humans, what are these beings? We do have to keep them indoors because humans have created a world that is not safe for cats. At least in North America, the perspective is keep them indoors. So we're looking to replicate what they do outdoors, to give them an analog of that indoors so they can express their true nature within the limits of an apartment or a home. One of the first things is cats need scratching posts. You probably already all have scratching posts, but scratching for cats is really essential for their physical well-being. You know, it's like doing yoga for us or Pilates. It's also important to their mental well-being. It's a way of releasing stress. It's sort of like, you know, if you ever go to the gym when you're just really, yeah, I gotta like work this energy out. That's what it is for your cat. And when you're providing a scratching post, you're showing the cat, you know, I get that your needs are different and I'm going to provide what you need for your well-being. On the human side, if you don't have scratching posts, they will choose whatever fabric they like best in your apartment. Cats also need height. Some cats more than others. Ariel is very much, you know, she would be on the roof if she could. And we're already 5 stories up. Hedda didn't care so much. But in general, because cats are prey animals as well as predators, height gives them a little bit of protection as well as a view of what's going on. You can have a tall cat tree or climbing walls, which are modular pieces of perches and bridges that you put directly into the studs in your wall. And that allows a cat to kind of move in a more natural way, the way they would probably among a series of trees. In this, you're giving your cat the freedom and the means to express themselves in their own way, and not to express themselves to you or to me or to humans, but to simply be a cat. Just like humans, cats need intellectual stimulation. And for that, I recommend clicker training. If you have a dog, you probably know about this. It's a little plastic piece, and when the cat does a desired behavior, for example, sitting on command, you click as soon as they do the action, and then immediately follow it with a treat. And what's brilliant about the clicker is that human voices confuse animals. So if they're sitting and we say, good girl, and then toss a treat, they're not sure why they're getting the treat. When you click and pair the click with the treat, they understand that whatever they did at the moment of hearing the clicker is what will get them another treat. So they're smart. And you know, your cat may not learn everything. I've been trying to teach Ariel to go to the top of the fridge instead of the counters for 1.5 years, and she's barely getting it. But what you're doing here is you're really, I mean, it's almost like being 2 musicians in harmony. You know, you're paying attention to your cat and what they are doing, and they're paying attention to you, and there's a very intense bond there. On Instagram, I follow Cat School at cat.school, and she has a number of inexpensive home study clicker training courses, and she's very responsive. Her name is Julie. She's based in Toronto. And that's the one I would recommend for getting started with clicker training. Food puzzle toys. This is another way to give them kind of a mental challenge while also showing them that you understand how they live. So in the wild, cats eat maybe 10 small meals a day. And if you think about a field mouse, that's not a very big animal, and cats' stomachs aren't very big. So they'll hunt, and then they'll go off and do something else, and then they'll hunt again, or maybe they're hunting the whole time. I don't know. Cats don't eat, you know, a full half cup of food. Like cats don't binge eat that I know of. And so when you're giving them a small portion that they can find, and I'll get to the puzzle in a sec, that, I totally lost where I was. It shows you, you know, hey, yeah, I get you. I know that you don't want to eat 10 meals at once, like who does? So here, I'm going to help you out, and I'm going to create an environment that's similar to what you would have to what you're wired for. So with these food puzzles, you can either use, this is a Doc and Phoebe's Hunter Feeder, and you put the kibble or treats in here and then place it around somewhere like behind a bookshelf or under the bed. And the cat has to hunt it and then get the food out of it. With this, it's really easy. They just knock it over and the food comes out. You can also make one at home. If any of you hoarded toilet paper, you should have lots and lots of toilet paper rolls right now. All you need to do is punch little holes in either side with a pair of scissors, put some kibble or treats inside, fold up the edges, and then, as with the other one, just place it somewhere in a corner. Over time, you can do things like drape a dishcloth over it, so the cat has to get under the dishcloth to get the treat. What's really fun about this is watching your cat hunt for it. With Ariel, her tail goes straight up in a curl, and sometimes it even quivers, and her ears go forward, and her whiskers go forward. Sorry, I got some schmutz. And she's just fully engaged. And you can, I mean, anybody could look at this cat and see this is happy, excited, engaged body language. And she's just looking at everything, and she'll kind of peek into places where she knows I've left food before. And it's just really fun to watch. It's like, wow, she's a good little hunter. That's what the woman I adopted her from said. And it's true, she is. Interactive playtime is one of the best ways to deepen a bond. It's a great shared experience. Cats in the wild play. Their playtime is practicing their hunting moves. So they practice pouncing, they practice biting, they practice stalking, and that's what's fun for them. So if you've watched foster kittens on Instagram, you've seen them pounce on their mama's tail because the tail moves and the cats grab it. And that's similar to a cat dancer toy that you can buy. And it's all, you know, they're learning to stalk, they're learning to pounce. So playtime is great for both you and your cat because you'll probably wind up laughing, and your cat gets the exercise and engagement and stimulation that they need. The idea would be, so this is one of my wand toys for Ariel. I have a couple of different ones. And the ideal is to spend maybe 15, 20 minutes before you put down wet food. So if you feed wet food twice a day, and not everybody does, try to do the playtime right before that. Because in the wild, when cats are playing, you know, when cats hunt, it's hunt, catch, kill, eat. And for cats to play without the final satisfaction, the payoff of eating, is really frustrating for them. So that's the ideal. I am not an exemplar of any of these. So these are just things I know. And I know that it does deepen my bond with Ariel when I do it. But I still don't always do, okay, like right before wet food, because life happens. Looking out the window with them. So this is part of taking their perspective. You know, we all take our visual environment pretty much for granted, right? But when a cat comes into the picture, they experience it completely differently. And in this apartment, I was really concerned that Ariel would not have enough visual stimulation. My old place was ground level, tons of greenery, tons of birds, I had like this buffet, this visual buffet of activity. And now I'm 5 stories up, I'm in a really downtown area, and lots of noise, lots of traffic. And Ariel loves it. She looks out the window. We have birds, they're big, we're 5 stories up. So we get seagulls and ravens flying by, sometimes eagles. And she loves watching them. And she is fascinated by the traffic. There's a highway that goes right below my apartment, so there's always cars. And to her, she doesn't know cars. They're bugs, they're moving, they're movement. And she really, you know, when I was able to kind of try that, I was like, could I see these simply as just movement without any label or judgment of it? And I was, and it was like, oh, maybe I don't have to be about how noisy this apartment is. There's also, if you don't have a good window for watching, YouTube has about at least 100 videos under the label of Cat TV. And most of these are time-lapse videos of nature with songbirds coming in and out, and squirrels, field mice, all kinds of animals. And cats get really into it. I mean, Hedda was never that into it, but Ariel will try and catch the birds. When there are other cats on the screen, she'll try to pet them. So she's very engaged in it. And when she and I are sitting together and watching it, I feel like I'm getting a better sense of who she is as a sovereign being. So both of these exercises are a lot of fun, and watching nature videos is really good with humans. Right now, many people can't get out into nature as much as they would like. So this is a great alternative. So win-win for everybody. Cats are great at self-cleaning, but grooming is another way that you can deepen the bond. I mean, they do shed tens of thousands of hairs a day. Cats groom each other as a sign of familiarity. And when they're a group of cats, they groom each other so that they can create this kind of group scent. So all the cats in your home, if you have a multi-cat home, have created a group scent. And when they groom you, they're considering you part of their group, and they want to make sure that you can find your way home to them too, which I think is really sweet. Grooming is touch, and touch is nurturing. I'll mention this a few times. All mammals need touch. And, you know, otters hold hands, and dogs and cats and bunnies and horses all cuddle and snuggle or keep close for warmth. You've seen horses with their necks entwined around each other. Touch is absolutely essential for all of our well-being. And over the past several months, many of us have not had any physical contact with another human being. You know, I'm so grateful that we don't have to physically distance from our pets. And I've talked to a number of other people who feel the same way. So what we're going to do here is be deliberate about grooming and offer it with an intention of love and paying attention and deepening the bond. As you groom them, to give you some things to focus on, see what you notice about their fur. You know, is it ticked? Does it have different colors? Is there an undercoat? If you have a long hair cat, what's the longest hair? You know, you can find, just really try to communicate with grooming your love for the cat. And in my experience, when you do this, and if your cat doesn't start biting the brush, which Ariel does, it will deepen your bond pretty profoundly. Grooming is mindful affection and attention, and every relationship can benefit from that. This is a hard one. Let them take the lead in snuggle or playtime. And I am as guilty as anyone of picking up Ariel when I want to pick her up, because I want what I want now, and I want affection now, and especially without any human touch, I want affection now. And within about 30 seconds, I've got claw marks all over. Message received. Cats don't like to be pressured into physical contact any more than humans do. So try watching for their signals. See when they come to you, when they're winding around your ankles, if they jump into your lap, or if they seem to be soliciting your attention, then it's a good time for snuggle or playtime. If you have Ariel, she might drop a toy on your chest at 2 in the morning to say, let's play. But in general, you know, what you're doing with this is, again, you're telling your cat, I recognize that you are a sovereign being. You are not my possession. You know, we are coexisting. I love you. You are my family. And I'm going to try and give you everything you need. So these are just a few of hundreds of items that are out there on conventional ways to deepen a bond with a pet. And I'm going to get into the more unconventional ways. But first, I'd like to speak a little bit about how humans communicate and how cats communicate. So all living beings communicate. Horses, cats, dogs, humans, even trees and plants communicate with each other, and to some extent, even with other species. I'm going to take a sip of water. Actually, that was coffee. I lied. With humans, using our lungs, our throat, our cheeks, our mouth, and our tongue, we can create about 500 different sounds, mouth sounds. And when we put those mouth sounds in a certain order, we call that a word. And when we put a number of words together, so a whole bunch of mouth sounds, we call it a sentence. And this is what we consider to be communication. We focus on the content of our mouth sounds. I think human language is basically a series of sophisticated grunts. I'm sure the Neanderthals knew what each of their grunts meant too. We've agreed that we have certain meaning with these sounds, but nobody else can understand what we mean by them unless they've been inducted into what we consider language. I think I already said this, but I'll repeat it in case I didn't. Humans focus on the content of what we say to each other rather than the sounds themselves. Animals focus, like their communication is very different. It's body language, it's pheromones. But dogs can make about 17 mouth sounds. Dogs also, they have more facial expressions. So if you put a cat and a dog side by side, it's much easier for someone who's not really, for someone objective, to understand the dog's body language and facial expressions, because they have all these muscles that help them mimic our facial expressions. Well, I mean, they have similar musculature to ours, so I don't know if they're mimicking. Cats have fewer facial muscles. They do make facial expressions. If you live with a cat, you know what it's like when a cat is disgusted with you. Cats can make 100 mouth sounds, unique sounds, which is pretty incredible, but that helps make up for lack of facial muscles. And each cat-human dyad develops its own unique vocabulary. Each cat, so when you adopt a cat, that cat begins a process of experimenting to see, okay, will this sound get me what I want? Okay, I want food, so I'm going to try sounding like this. And that doesn't work, I'll try this. And over time, you know, once a cat learns which sounds get the results they want, they also then, I totally went up right there, which sounds get the results they want. Then they use those consistently, and then we start learning what their sounds are. I mean, I would say it took me a good, you know, it's taken a couple of years with Ariel for me to recognize how she communicates. So when she's hungry, she mews like a little baby, and she cries, and it really sounds like a baby. When she's annoyed, her vocalization goes something like, meow. You know, it's really clear. When she's happy, it's like, what? When she greets me, she has a sound that's a little bit like almost like a goat. It's very staccato, and there are two different notes in it. So it's just fascinating to me. I mean, Hedda was very chatty too, but my favorite thing with her was she would wake me up with what I called a Dolores Umbridge meow, and she would get really close to my face. It's like 6 in the morning. And I love that. And if it didn't work, she swatted me in the nose. So over time, listen to your cat's vocalizations and see how many you can note, how many different ones you can find, and then see if you see patterns, you know, where she's asking to play or asking for food or telling you to go to bed. Hetty used to come into my office at 9 o'clock every night if I was still working, and she would meow angrily until I followed her into the bedroom. So I don't believe that animals understand the content of our mouth sounds, but I assume they don't. I mean, that's the better assumption to make. So when I communicate with her, I focus more on the tones in my voice, the musicality of my voice. If I'm really angry, it might be a sharp kind of Ariel. But when I want to praise her, I use a high-pitched, good girl. Cats really like high-pitched voices. So that's why I do it that way. And I think that's also sort of an instinct. You know, there's almost an instinct to use a high-pitched voice. Okay, so now we're getting into what I call the unconventional practices. And the first one is to look without labeling. We humans are so fond of labeling everything. We label objects, we label, you know, situations, we judge things, we label beings, you know, there's nothing we can't label. Well, there are, I'm getting to that, but we're so immersed in language, we're like a fish that doesn't know it's in water. You know, we don't know who we are without language. Yet, as I mentioned earlier, in the absence of humans, cats, birds, horses, trees, this would all exist. And as we saw during lockdown, it would probably flourish a lot better without human intervention. So we're getting at the essence of what they are without our labels. One of the problems with labels, or the challenges, is that when you label something, you stop being able to actually see it. Like from the age of 3 or 4, I don't know if I already said this, so I'm going to repeat it. You know, we assume that the word is the totality of what it's referencing. Yes, I did say this earlier, I think. And it's not. So for this one, choose a time when your cat is playing at a distance or just relaxed, but when the cat is a little bit across the room from you. And look at your cat. Then be aware of all the labels that come into your mind. Cute, fuzzy, you know, torty, tuxy, short hair, rescue. Thoughts are gonna come up, just let them go. Put each label in a balloon and just let it float away. And keep looking at them and trying to look at them as though you've never seen a cat before in your life. You just arrived on this planet and you have no idea what this being is. Try to start looking with a fresh mind. And notice what comes up for you, because it may not be language, but there may be a felt sense that comes up for you as you do this. The second one is to touch without naming. And as I mentioned, all mammals need touch, and mammals who are deprived of touch often develop really severe psychological and emotional challenges. So the point of this exercise is to be deliberate with our touch. And so choose a time when your cat is resting. And again, I wish I could talk you through this real time, but you'll have to practice later. Place your palm lightly on their fur and close your eyes and imagine all your mental energy gathering into a tiny ball at the top of your head. And once you have the ball, imagine it coming down your neck and all the way rolling down your arm. Keep your focus on the ball, down to your hand and your palm. And now the ball is right where the palm meets fur. And just keep all your mental energy on the sensation of touching the fur and see what comes up for you. Thoughts are going to come up. Every time they do, just release them in a balloon, let them float away, and keep coming back to pure sensation. This is one of the techniques. So before tuna, I experienced 7 years of a lot of uncertainty, survival level uncertainty. And often when I woke up, when we wake up, our bodies generate a lot of cortisol to kind of get us out of sleep. But for those of us prone to anxiety, we start thinking thoughts that match the cortisol. So I would wake up with thoughts spinning in my head. And I would just reach over and place my hand lightly on Hedda's side and just keep coming back to the sensation. And it really helped calm me. It was this deliberate focus, clear the mind, calming. There's a lot of anxiety going on right now with everything happening in the world. So I encourage you to practice this also for your own well-being. Come back to just this breath right here, right now. Most of these can be done with any companion animal, but there is a caveat in this next one. Be very, very careful, particularly with dogs. And so this one is about making eye contact, but making gentle eye contact. Never stare down an animal. Like staring down is this, and I don't think anybody here would, but that will, you know, we're all wired to respond aggressively to stares. You know, all of us consider that kind of stare a threat. So what we're talking about, I believe when we're stressed, you know, we release pheromones. So if we're doing this, our body is releasing a fragrance that we can't smell consciously, but our cats can. And they pick up on that and then they get all stressed. So we're going to calm down and do soft eyes as though you're going to do a slow blink. And you can even, you know, start with a slow blink. So your cat should be on your lap, resting gently or within a few feet facing you, and their eyes should be open. Make sure that their eyes, their pupils are small. You don't want any level of zoomy eyes or any dilation, and that their tail is quiet. And give them a couple of slow blinks, and then soften your gaze and gently meet your cat's eyes. And as you do that, let go of any concepts. Try to look at them without any concepts, as though this were the first time you were experiencing what this being is. I can't tell you exactly what you're going to experience. For me, it was a bit like, oh, wow. It's not a big moment. It's not like, oh my God. It's just like, oh, this being is not what I thought. Like, she's not my thoughts about her. She's not any concepts. She's here in her own right. And wow. But that's the closest I can come to conveying it in language. And as I mentioned earlier, we humans are very fond of language. So this is a bit like an optical illusion. There's a meme going around where they say, do you see animals or human faces first? And I usually see animals. But then when you do see the humans, you go, oh, or if you remember the dress 5 years ago, you know, when you see the black and you're sure that it's white and gold. And then suddenly you see the blue and black. It's like, whoa, oh, wow, there are two different realities here. Wow. There's a Zen teacher named Adyashanti whose writings I really like. And he has a line of what's looking through your eyes is also looking through mine. And on the last day of Hedda's life, when I was doing all these rituals to kind of let go and give her permission to go, I said that line a few times. And Hedda, I mean, it was her last day. She was resting and not, you know, very active. Every time I repeated that line, she perked up and looked straight into my eyes. I don't know, but that was pretty amazing. My other favorite way to look at this connectedness is to imagine yourself and your cat as pieces of blown glass. And you're powered by the same thing. The glass blower's breath is inside both of you. Can you feel that? And then there's one more angle to this for if you want more science-mindy stuff. In quantum physics, there's a field of energy called the 0-point field. And 0-point energy exists in all living beings, plants, trees, animals, amoebas, you know, all the billions of life forms in the sea. And 0-point energy is constantly in motion. It's generative. And even at absolute zero, which is the temperature where all other activity stops, all other energy stops, the 0 point energy is still going. And it's generative energy, and that, you know, is that what connects us? Maybe. There's actually an illustration in the tuna book where I tried to ask Francis to do a visual of the 0 point field. And of course it's energy, you know, we can't draw energy. But that was that's kind of an Easter egg for me in the book. So these are, I've gone about double the time I said I was going to, and thank you so much for staying with me. These are all ways you can deepen your bond with your cat or dog right where you are right now. And because, again, because we're all staying home more, I really encourage you to take advantage of that and look at where, you know, you can't go broad, but you can go deep right now. You can use different practices at different times. You know, it doesn't have to be like, okay, I have this and this and this. You know, try taking their perspective one day and sharing experience the next. I do recommend playing every day because that just is really important for your well-being and your cat's. About a year after Hedda died, I didn't have a place of my own, and I was living at a retreat center and volunteering in exchange for room and board. And I woke up one day and I felt Hedda right here. I mean, it's so hard to describe if you haven't experienced it, but it was just her right here. And it was a little bit like the experience of the eye contact exercise, but you know, for the next year, I felt her around me all the time. And then ever since, it's been more intermittent. But my ultimate goal is to help people connect with their animal's essence after the animal is gone. So there's appreciating the life as long as it lasts and helping us connect with that after they're gone. That's going to have to be another workshop because that's a really hard, tricky piece to figure out. So if there are any questions, if everybody's still here, we can open it up. But first, I just want to remind you, please pre-order P.S. I Love You More Than Tuna. Within the meowfest app, if you go to Marketplace and then the More Than Tuna page and scroll down to the bottom, there's a pre-order link. And also, please, if you do these exercises, please share them on your social media and tag More Than Tuna so I can see how they were for you. And I think that's it. So I'm going to switch to, you can